Yeah, again. Look, reasonably speaking, this all should have ended with the book review. That should have been the end. I should have had nothing more to say. Well, actually, I mean, to be fair, it really should have ended with the first video. But there should be no reason for me to make another one here. But there is, because Almando reviewed his own book. You know, he reviewed how great and amazing and totally not plagiarized of a book it is. And while it feels a little bit ridiculous to be even engaging with this at this point, when this person has made the complete lack of ethics or honesty in his personality so absolutely clear that I really don't even need to bother, it's still really, really funny. And I just can't help myself. I keep coming back. It's just an endless well of whatever you happen to call this. I don't know why Almando insists on continuing to do these incredibly dumb things that warrant responses, but I think it might have something to do with this. Considering the amount of rage coming from the atheist community and all the false accusations and misunderstandings, especially with my verified book, God Is. We'll get to that in a minute. This might just be one of the greatest things happening for this ministry aside from the future plans and events. More views, more subscribers, and more watch time. In hours. Yeah, it's a good thing you specified that. Watch time in minutes might be down. This is all a part of the plan. Oh, so it's apart from the plan. It's not part of the plan. God damn, Almando, you're an author selling a book for money. I'm not going to give you a pass on this anymore. A whopping 5,517 views in the last 28 days. Look, I'm not one to mock people's view counts generally, but he's using this as a brag. Look how incredible that number is. But as of whenever Almando decided to hide his subscriber count, which I think was around January 2021, he had 6.37 thousand subscribers. By the way, hiding your subscriber count, one of the weakest things you can possibly do on YouTube. It shouldn't even be possible. Completely undermines the entire culture of the site. Ridiculous. You look like an idiot. Don't do it. But yeah, what's his sub count at now? Who knows? Presumably higher. I mean, his content must be sucking the crowds in. Look at his brag here. He's got 17 subs in 28 days. Extrapolate that back to friggin' January of 2021, and I mean, that amounts into the hundreds. So that 5,500 views in a month number isn't really very impressive. In fact, for anyone interested in YouTube, that would be considered pretty weak. And look, not everybody can hit it out of the park all the time, okay? That's fine. Just why are you bragging about it? So yeah, I guess all this fame and glory explains why he keeps making himself look like the biggest ass in the universe. Now, as for that verified book comment, that's in reference to what he's talking about here. Thank you all for supporting my book. Despite the false accusations of this project, you kept this book standing, and it has been doing amazing. The book has passed inspection. What he's talking about is the fact that Lulu.com briefly took down the book, presumably because it received a bunch of reports of plagiarism, and Lulu, being very insistent that they're a platform, not a publisher, you're the publisher. Apparently, I've been told in a situation like that, goes to the author and says, "Hey, author, is this book a plagiarism?" And if the author says, "No," then Lulu says, "Great, back up it goes." I don't care if they stay out of it completely. That seems perfectly reasonable to me. They're basically a printing company. They're not the publisher. All the copyright liability is on Almando. If Frank Turek wants to go after someone for this book, Almando is the one he will and should go after. But anyway, yeah, since his book was not eternally down on Lulu, since Lulu didn't say, "This is unacceptable, we won't put this on our website," he now calls it his verified book that's passed inspection. And he's using that as approval from an authority figure to say his book isn't plagiarism. Almando, Lulu hasn't read your book. None of the employees there read your book. They don't know, they don't care. It's not relevant to their business. They have no liability in this respect. You do. And even if they had, even if some employee at Lulu.com said, "Okay, yeah, well, I think this is acceptable," that doesn't make a book packed full of provable plagiarism not plagiarism anymore. That's not how reality works. I know that if some person you think is an authority just says something totally contrary to observable reality, you think that makes it true? That authority overrides observation? That's the whole point of your fucking religion? But that's not how it works. Go ahead, Almando. Go get a letter from the president. Have him sign a declaration of Almando's book is not plagiarism and hand it to me. Doesn't mean dick. You're still a plagiarist. So, oh yeah, the video.
Well, welcome guys. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a personal book review.
You already did that. You gave yourself 5 stars on Lulu.
And yes, I'm the one who wrote it.
Debatable. Some of it, definitely. And those few bits stand out like a turtle head when you really gotta take a shit.
I'm the one who put this project together, so
That's more reasonable to say, yeah. Although, again, your name's not even on the spine. Blue Shepherd Studios on the spine. And Levy Hernandez shows up on the title page and on Lulu itself, because the Lulu link to the book is lulu.com shop Almando Calvo and Levy Hernandez God Is. He doesn't get to show up on the front cover or the contributors section, though. That's kind of weird.
the review's not going to be like any other review. It's going to be more of just a personal review, how it was writing the book.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, I bet that was a long, grueling, rigorous process. I bet there was a real interesting story there. Hitting Control-C, Control-V constantly can get real tiring.
My idea for this book, what kind of inspired me to write this book.
We already know what inspired you to write the book. You have the list of your inspirations in the back. Unfortunately, all those guys who've written books didn't inspire you to actually, write a book instead of just stealing it. That would have been some good inspiration to take from them.
What I used to write this book and stuff like that. And
Wait, are we going to find out about the word processor? Are we going to finally solve the mystery here of which weird-ass word processor you use that cuts off lines after like 2 words at the end of pages? Please tell me that's what you mean, because I have to know. It just doesn't make any sense, man. It doesn't make any sense to me how that even happens. I have to understand this.
also just the reviews of just the book itself. The book itself, the reviews that I received for this book on lulu.com.
Oh, sweet. You're going to talk about the fake reviews, too? By the way, that fake helpful rating stuff you did? Apparently some people find that pretty amusing, because the negative reviews on your book have helpful ratings up into the hundreds. Can't say they're wrong to do it either. I mean, they're just doing the same thing you did.
But yes, so I'm the writer and author of God Is.
Wow, the writer and author? How do you juggle so many different jobs at the same time?
God Is a book
True, but barely. So review over, right?
where I have decided to elaborate upon other argumentations that have already been used by other Christian apologists.
Been used by them. Yeah, just used by them. Those arguments you copy-pasted directly out of I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist and a bunch of random-ass websites and a bunch of other books, I'm sure. The authors didn't write that stuff out in their own words or anything. That stuff that you stole completely, word for word, and put in your own book. No. The wording, the arguments, the entire way it was written, it was just sort of floating out there in the ether, And the authors just kind of used it. They just decided, I'll use that. Just pluck that out of the air there and stick that into my book. And then you did the same thing. Just plucked it out of the ethereal plane. That common supernatural cache of religious arguments.
What really led me to write this book and what inspired me to write this book was other Christian apologists.
You don't say. I knew that going in, man. You had it plastered all over the book that you were inspired by a bunch of people. And I know your videos. I knew it wasn't going to be original thought. I just didn't expect it to be a bad Xerox.
There has been a lot of arguments, such as the cosmological argument, the teleological argument, the moral argument, and other arguments used by people like Greg Koukl, Frank Turek, William Lane Craig, Norman Geisler, that I really liked and that I felt that I could have elaborated to as well.
Then why didn't you?
So I decided to write this book after the fact that I read I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, because that was actually what inspired me to write this book in the first place.
Jeez, the revelations just keep on rolling in. I don't know how to cope with the shock.
So let me tell you guys the little story first. So
when I was a baby, I ate lead paint and fell down the stairs.
Basically, I've been studying apologetics for about a year to a year and a half. I think a year and a half. I think it's safe to say. And there's been a lot of apologetic books that I have read already. The main one that I was reading before I was led to write this book was I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Dr. Frank Turek and Norman Geisler.
Okay, but the way that you really understood the essence of the arguments and the points being made, the evidence being presented, such that you could pass that information on to an audience in your own words, was really just marvelous. I've never seen anything like it. They always say a good indicator of whether you've really understood the material is whether you can adequately put it into your own words. And you.
And during the time that I was reading that, there was so many great arguments in there that I felt compelled to want to elaborate to.
What do you think the word elaborate means? Fuck up slightly during copying? Have you read your own book? That's an honest question. Do you actually believe that you added some meaningful elaboration by adding spelling errors and grammatical screw-ups to the stuff you plagiarized? What's in your head when you're doing this stuff? Are you honestly this oblivious? Do you sit there copying and pasting stuff from other people's websites or weird apologetics meme images or books or whatever and feel like you're working hard and therefore you must be adding something because, you're putting it all together into one thing? Reality be damned? You appear to live in dreamland.
And there was a lot of places in that book that I was like, man, I wish they added this, or man, they should kind of expand upon this idea and explain more in detail.
Such as what?
Such as areas such as like the cosmological argument, for example, or...
The cosmological argument is one of the first things in the book. You present it on the first page of chapter 1, and everything on the first couple, 3-4 pages of chapter 1 reads to me like it could have easily been written by you. At this point, anyone watching should easily be able to guess why. And so I'm willing to tentatively grant that what you say is true for that argument. Although considering the scale of the deceptiveness on display in this book, I don't trust you. Maybe you just fudged it enough that it's not obvious enough for me to immediately find it. Maybe you took it from a book other than I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist and then messed up the spelling and grammar. See, this is the problem when you act like a lying shitbag, is nobody believes you anymore even when you're actually honest. But as I say, I'll give it to you, tentatively.
When they start talking about the history of Jesus or the reliability of the Bible, or the historicity test of the Bible, where they talk about the differences between the theistic position and non-theistic position.
I will give you none of that, because the stuff you named there was basically your back half of the book, and you plagiarized basically all of it and elaborated on essentially none of it. Not that it fucking matters how much you elaborate on plagiarized material, but whatever.
There's a lot of areas, and I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, that I really desired to expound upon.
Okay, yeah, then you know how you do that, Almando. You start off your book, with a brilliant opening line like, hello, my name is Almando Calvo. I want to elaborate on some arguments that I found in Frank Turek and Norman Geisler's I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. So in chapter 1, Norm and Frank make an argument about blah, 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 and you explain in your own words what the argument's about, maybe supported by a couple of cited quotations, and then you go on to tell the people what you want to say about it. You don't just copy-paste multiple pages of their book at a time into your book with no citation and do it dozens of times in a row and then maybe put an occasional sentence of your own to connect things up in between to make it seem like it belongs together. And then slap your fucking name on it like it's yours and don't even provide a goddamn notes section or references or anything. People write books all the time to provide their own thoughts on somebody else's arguments. That's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. But what you did is outright blatant plagiarism. It doesn't matter what your intention was. It's what you did. And frankly, I don't buy your BS about your intentions either. This elaboration book idea you're coming up with now is something you started saying after people started to notice and comment on this. You knew what you were doing. You might not have understood that people would notice or care. Maybe you didn't pay any attention in high school and so you don't realize it's considered a problem. But you damn well knew that you were copying huge chunks of other people's work and sticking it in your own with no significant meaningful modification or even commentary or citation. Spare me your retconning of this thing into an elaboration book. Come on. At what point do you stop lying and you just start being honest about what you did? You got caught. Okay, just admit it. Grow up and just deal with it. Jesus.
So by reading that book, it really gave me the idea to create an elaboration book. To write an elaboration book. So
yeah, and isn't it funny that the only time that phrase ever started to crop up was after people started calling you out for plagiarism? It's not in the book release short film. It's not in all the live streams you did promoting it beforehand. It's not on the book's page on Lulu. It's not on the book itself. The only place I've ever seen you say this, and do correct me if I'm wrong, with a link and a time code, but I'm pretty goddamn sure I'm right, the only place that I've ever heard you say this, and I'm pretty sure the only place you have said it, is in your defenses against accusations of plagiarism. The nature of your ridiculous book doesn't change retroactively, Almando. You don't get to redefine what it was. And you know what? Elaboration book or no elaboration book doesn't change a damn thing. Plagiarism's plagiarism. If you need me to explain the concept in more detail to you, please come talk to me. I will explain it as long as you need to get it through your head. I will take time out of my day to help you. I kind of don't think it's necessary, though. I think you already get it. I think people have made it pretty crystal fucking clear to you. So cut the act. You look like a dumbass.
This book, the idea of this book was to kind of give you guys my own arguments and my own elaboration by also using some of the most popular arguments that have been used from other people, such as Frank Turek, William Lane Craig. I mean, I have a whole list of people that I credited at the back of this book.
Oh yeah, you credited them, yeah, as inspiration. That's not a credit for a quotation, let alone dozens of pages out of your 140-page book. If people have to discover that something came from some other place, that it came from I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist or some William Lane Craig book or whatever, if they have to dig that up, if they have to go and refer to those books and search through them manually and compare your book sentence by sentence to the internet in general and every book by every one of those people you credited, because otherwise it's going to be taken at face value as what it's presented as, which is your work, that's plagiarism. Man, you don't just take a bunch of shit from other people's books or websites or whatever, put it in your book with every indication that it's your work, and then slap the name of the person you took it from in the back of the book and just call it good. Okay, I know you said you went to high school. You had that video where the guy that forgot your ice cream, he was your buddy in high school. So you've been to high school. I'm sorry, Almando, you have zero excuse here. Even if you only completed one grade of high school, you have no excuse here. And, you're just talking about stuff like I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, but what about once you get into the websites? Was it like Ancient Pages or something, and Psychology Today? There's a bunch of random crap all over the place. And that guy with the images that David John Wellman found, Steve Duvall, it goes on and on and on. None of these people are credited. Normally you would have like a little number in superscript after the quote. For one thing, you would present stuff as a quote, and then you would, in some format or another, have that refer to a note or a reference that then points to the website you took it from. I mean, you really shouldn't be copying entire articles into your book, even cited, but at least it's better if you say where it came from, if you don't just pretend like you wrote it.
Right here. Right at the back of the book, we got Dr. Frank Turek, Norman Geisler, Greg Koch, William Lane.
Shut up, dude. Just shut up.
These were all people that I've looked up to, that I've been following for a very long time.
Then why do you treat them like this?
And I've been learning from. So a lot of the stuff in this book are more just pieces of their arguments and a lot of their writings, and I decided to elaborate on their writings, elaborate on their arguments, because I felt that there could have been a bit more added to their arguments. And
God damn it, man. Just take some responsibility for anything you ever do. People bring this stuff up to you, and what is your response? Your response is to go to your community tab on YouTube and start posting how the atheists are angry and they just hate you because you're a Christian, and Jesus said the world was going to hate you, and you just have to, let go and let God, and those goddamn atheists are all the slaves of Satan and whatever. Dude, slave of Satan or not, I'm right. I'm not talking about the God stuff here. You have to learn to distinguish. I'm right about the plagiarism issue. What you've done is textbook plagiarism. It's the worst example I think a lot of people who've watched my videos on this have ever seen. It's one step off just taking someone else's book, erasing their name from the front, and then putting your own name on it and then selling it like it's your own. And instead of taking any responsibility for it, you just make excuses and excuses and excuses. You make up nonsense like it's an elaboration book now. Because the atheists can't be right. Because you can't let the atheists win even if it has nothing to do with the God question. I got news for you, man. You've already lost on this. You lost the moment that this thing was exposed for what it is. But the last thing that's helpful to you is digging the hole deeper, and that's all you've done. Whatever, he points out a couple other arguments that he thinks he did a good job expanding on or elaborating on, or whatever the word is he wants to use. One of them's the one about the personal and moral quantum vacuum god, which, yeah, maybe. That read like an Almando original, sure. And how the hell is that supposed to redeem the rest of the book, Almando? I don't think I accused you of plagiarism on that one. Yep, try to divert attention away from everything else that's a problem. Don't address the actual plagiarism criticisms. Whatever. Anyway, here's the next part.
And it's a really great book. I mean,
dude, you've been lying this whole video, but never anything as bad as what you just said. Come on, give it up, man. Just accept that this one's not going to work out because of your behavior. You know, go work on your next book. Don't plagiarize a whole bunch of stuff in it, and hope things go better with that. Pro tip, run a spell check.
just like the 5 anthropic principles that I also got from Frank Turek. As you guys can see, I do my best to credit every single apologist in my book. As you guys can see right here, I credited Dr. Frank Turek and Norman Geisler right there. I said credit to Dr. Frank Turek right here.
Yeah, and then you plagiarized a bunch of shit out of their book. Dude, if you were just using the idea and talking about their idea and saying credit for the idea goes to them, that would be acceptable. But that's not what you did. You copied entire chunks out of their book. You just took it. I think I said in my review that you changed nothing, which if I'm remembering correctly, then that was a bit strong because you screwed it up a tiny bit, not enough to even begin to hide the fact that you copied it. But here, let me put side by side each one of these anthropic constants as you put it versus how they put it. And tell me that I was wrong to say they're basically the exact same thing, that you just took it. These aren't presented as quotations. It's not presented as an excerpt from their book. It's not even copied accurately. It's presented as your work, Almando. Just because you say the words credit to Frank Turek and Norman Geisler doesn't make it not plagiarism.
I try to do my best to try to credit every single apologist. That's why I left their names in the back of the book, and I also left it up here as well. So,
okay, well again, that's not a credit for the quotations, so it's plagiarism. But what about all the people whose names you didn't put on the book? You stole from way more people than are credited in the book. So what about them? Oh well, some of them aren't apologists, so I guess those ones can just go to hell. Okay, well what about the apologists? Do you see why it seems like nothing you say really matches up to reality? Do you see why it's hard for people to take you seriously as this honestly naive, innocent guy who just made a mistake? Like, oh, I credit everybody I steal from. Oh, really? In fact, capital S, several studies, blah, 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 stolen crap from a live science article. You know you stole that too, and you're perfectly aware there's no mention of live science anywhere on the book. So even if I were to take your excuse as valid for the limited set of cases it applies to, it doesn't apply to most cases in the book. You know that as well as I do, so you're just flat out lying. Again. Why? You know people are gonna mention it. You know people are gonna know. It's already been pointed out. So why do you feel like you can obfuscate it away by throwing a bunch of irrelevant crap in my face? It's not gonna work. I'm sorry, man, but I don't believe you're ignorant, and therefore I don't believe you're innocent.
I used the argument from I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, the 5 anthropic principles, and I decided to expand upon it. So when you read the 5 anthropic principles, you're going to read a smaller portion of each anthropic principle from I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And when you read my book, you read an expansion of that argument of each anthropic principle.
No. In I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, there's this entire framework around Apollo 13 and how each one of these anthropic constants is relevant to something that was going on the spacecraft. And so outside of the central point of we need such and such level of oxygen to exist as human beings, or we need this much atmospheric transparency, or whatever, there's all this other stuff about Apollo 13 that you deleted. And you took directly the main point that they were trying to get across with each one, nearly word for word, very, very close, as I've shown, and you just stuck it in your book. It's not like you expand on anything. You just say what they say, and that's it. There's no thought there that's original to you. There's no elaboration that's original to you. There's nothing. And again, regardless, if you just copy how they wrote it, you plagiarized it. I know I'm repeating myself a lot on this, but I feel like I have to.
I wanted to kind of expand upon that and kind of provide more knowledge, like a more knowledgeable explanation.
Oh yeah, the great knowledge of Almando Calvo on moon-Earth gravitational interaction, historical oxygen levels, the percentage to which the gravitational force could be altered and still have our sun form. Hey, you know, I'm sure your knowledge is fantastic, but none of it's in the book because you didn't put it there. You just put Frank Turek and Norman Geisler's stuff. You want me to read the actual parts that you added? Okay, so in anthropic constant number 1, instead of saying human beings would suffocate with lower oxygen levels, you said human beings and all living creatures would suffocate, thus not being possible for life. So you took the exact same thing they wrote, but you screwed it up. And it doesn't mean what it used to mean, and it's wrong. You also changed fires would erupt spontaneously to fires would erupt conditionally, which means nothing. Okay, anthropic constant number 2, atmospheric transparency. In the middle, you randomly added the sentence, these precise numbers show that in order to have life, there would have to be the right amount of constants and quantities to have an existence. So, meaningless drivel that didn't need to be said. And after the parenthetical about levels of nitrogen and oxygen and so on in the atmosphere, you said, these levels could not have appeared out of nothing with this much fine-tuning, which is the entire point that the entire thing is supposed to establish. You don't need to say it every step of the way. Constant number 3, Moon-Earth gravitational interaction. You changed life on Earth would be impossible to life here on Earth would be impossible, thus no life would exist. Thanks for that. We didn't figure that one out. What is the possibility of these points being perfectly the way they are in just the right places? Little to none. Yeah, I know. Again, that's the point of the entire section. You don't need to say it. Atmospheric constant number 4, carbon dioxide level. Frank and Norman say if the CO2 level were higher than it is now, a runaway greenhouse effect would develop. We'd all burn up. What you say is if CO2 levels were higher than they are now, we would completely burn up into ashes. Constant number 5, gravity. Frank and Norman spell out the 0.00000 blah 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 1%. That supposedly would be the amount the gravitational force would have to be altered for our sun not to exist. And you spell out, that's 0, with 37 zeros and 1. Yeah, we can see it. And then at the end of that, you say, life would not be able to arise in the first place. To think about it, whatever caused the universe must really love us enough to give us these precise numbers and constants so that we may live. These numbers could not have arisen uncreated or undirected. It's too perfect. So yeah, there's a few additions, 1 or 2 word swaps to make sentences make less sense. But overall, he pretty much just copied the thing word for word. No effort to change it in any way that would actually hide what he's done. Just plain-ass, blatant, unabashed plagiarism. And certainly no knowledge added.
Not that, their explanation wasn't knowledgeable at all, but I felt that giving kind of a piece of what I've learned, my wisdom.
No.
That I was blessed with through the Holy Spirit, I wanted to kind of, elaborate to it to kind of give you guys a different perspective and a more wider explanation to some of these arguments and principles.
The wisdom that I was blessed with by the Holy Spirit. God, so humble. I'm not the reason I'm so wise and intelligent and awesome and need to elaborate on this thing I don't understand. No, it's not me. It's just that God made me that way.
So, the book is a challenging read.
Yeah, for none of the right reasons.
This book is meant for people to be challenged, especially atheists and other Christians who are maybe, having struggles with their faith and stuff like that. Maybe they have questions that need to be answered.
Armando, seriously, how much of the struggles that I had reading this book do you think were because I was confronted with new arguments I'd never heard before? Questions and points that shook me to my core, that I had to stay up at night to reckon with. When you watch my book review, does it seem like that was a problem? There was a problem. It was hard to get through despite being as short as it is. But do you really think that was it?
So this book is really good.
That's the second time you've said something like that. This is a great book. This book is really good. Who talks like that about their own book? The ego is just bizarre.
I am personally selling it on lulu.com. The book has gone through a lot of different reviews. I mean, I do want to mention this, that there has been a major misunderstanding for this project and the idea of this project. I mean, I've had a lot of videos made on this book already about plagiarism and all types of just accusations and stuff like that.
But nuh-uh, because it's been verified by lulu.com. So it's a great book and it's really good, and buy my book. All types of accusations and stuff like that, you say. I'm not accusing you of plagiarism, Almando. We're way past that stage here. I've already proven it. The fucking trial's over. Now we're at the point where you're just impotently screaming about your innocence as you're let off in handcuffs.
But the book has already been put through review and inspection, and it has passed both review and inspection.
See, I told you, he's trying to use the fact that he managed to keep the book up on Lulu's site, that their lack of copyright enforcement didn't result in his book being taken down permanently, to prove he's not a plagiarist. He thinks Lulu's his backup. He thinks he's got someone fighting in his corner. He thinks that if they continue to print it for him, that means it's objectively not plagiarized, despite it being objectively plagiarized. How many levels of delusion are we looking at here?
Glory to God. Thank God for that. So like I said, don't take anybody else's word for it. Read it for yourself. And
Yeah, you just want to sell copies, because the only way for people to read it for themselves is to buy the physical copy off Lulu. And then when they read it for themselves and realize, wow, this really is a massive heaping pile of disgusting plagiarism, it's too late, you got the money already. Don't be an idiot, don't buy Almando's book.
and just, you know, enjoy the challenging read. Enjoy the challenging read. That is the whole point of this book in the first place, is for you to be challenged.
Yeah, exactly. To enjoy this book, you must be mentally challenged.
Like I said, I think I mentioned this already. If you guys haven't read the book, make sure you guys pick it up, though. Okay? Make sure you guys read it for yourself. Stop listening to reviews. Stop listening to other people. Just read it for yourself.
Please stop listening to the reviews that demonstrate plainly and clearly that it's an absolute train wreck. Read it for yourself. I haven't had a calzone in 2 weeks, damn it!
And stop distracting yourself. Okay? Stop distracting yourself from conspiracies, from false accusations. Just read the book and accept the challenge, okay?
Conspiracies. The text that I've shown from his book is a conspiracy theory. Well, hey, Almando, that's one tactic to distract people from the obvious facts of the matter. You got some balls on you taking that approach. Unfortunately, it seems that every time you consider doing something not incredibly ridiculous, your balls retract so far they get lodged in your sinuses.
The purpose of the book is to challenge atheists and for them to focus on the evidence that we have for the existence of God and the reliability of the Bible and the historicity of Jesus. Stop making excuses and running away from the evidence just to focus on something that is irrelevant.
Almando, if I wanted to read your section about the reliability of the Bible and the historicity of Jesus, I'd go read the original sources of it. Whoever wrote the tens of pages on end that you outright stole. Do you think it's not obvious? Do you think I can't tell? I think it's very relevant to mention something like that. I know you desperately want everyone to look away from it. You're trying to shame people into not acknowledging the truth of the matter, but it's extremely relevant when talking about the book. Why would I bother talking about the details of the arguments? They're not your arguments. They're nothing to do with you. They're what's not relevant. I've never seen such a pathetic abdication of responsibility on YouTube, I don't think.
Something that is irrelevant, okay? All it is an excuse.
Oh, that's fucking rich coming from you.
They don't want to accept the challenge. They don't want to try to refute the evidence because they cannot. All they want to do is focus on conspiracy and stuff like that. So
I don't even know what to say to that, but fortunately, I don't think I need to say a thing.
Guys, if you are a reasonable, rational human being, pick up the book and accept the challenge, and let's discuss the evidence. Try to refute it, okay? Read the evidence and see what we have.
We have toilet paper.
You know, stop getting distracted by false accusations. Listen, the book is not going anywhere. The book has already been reviewed. The book has already been inspected. It's already passed inspection. It's already passed review.
Yeah, just a total denial of any wrongdoing whatsoever, despite the fact that he knows exactly what he did. Remember the review. Go back and look at part 2 if you have to. That stuff about the anthropic constants we just looked at earlier, that's barely scraping the surface. That's one of the less egregious examples. It's just one of the most obvious early ones. At least he changed a couple words here and there in those. Later on, he stops trying altogether and just cobbles the whole damn book together from other people's work. But I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I might as well be suggesting he's an insectoid invader from another crater on the mirror moon. Really, it's on the same level. So one last tiny thing to look at. He talks about the gospel. He tells us the whole story of that because there's got to be somebody out there who hasn't heard that, apparently. And during that, he says this.
Repent of your ways and accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. You shall be saved. It's not about perfecting yourself before you receive Christ, okay? It's about receiving Christ so that you can be perfected.
And the question is, Almando, why would I accept Jesus on the expectation that I'll be perfected when it's failed this miserably to perfect you? I think I might be done with this. As you can probably tell from the tone of this video, I'm not really having fun here. I've kind of lost patience. The fact that someone can behave this way, it's not funny anymore. It's just gross. But before I go, one last tiny thing. He gives a little preview of his new book that he's working on. He just turns the camera towards the screen and scrolls a bit, so it's hard to make a lot of it out. I did copy some of it out, but I decided I'm not going to go through it, because there's no point, really. Suffice to say, it's as well written as anything he wrote himself in God Is. But I do want to comment on one thing, which is the formatting and everything about the book is exactly the same as his previous one, including the pictures in the chapter headings and everything. And he's using Google Docs. So how did he end up with the formatting of his book so messed up? Especially the last lines on pages that are cut off after a few words. How'd that even happen? That doesn't happen in Google Docs. So what's the story? Is he manually putting in page breaks where he thinks the ends of pages should go? And it's before the end of the final line? I cannot even slightly comprehend what's going on here. Whatever's going on, I'm sure it's as stupid as everything else. So thanks for watching. If you would, please give the video a like and click subscribe if you haven't. If you really like the channel, please do consider supporting with even just like a couple bucks a month. It helps a ton. And enormous thanks to all of my supporters who've already made that choice. Thank you very much. If you want early access, sign up to the email list, list.logicked.com, and I'll see you next time.